All right, Lachlan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
To the audience, let them clap it out. All right, Lachlan. Well, thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate it. I'm glad that we were able to schedule something. So let me just go into how I know you. So we know each other through IRMO, which is a dance team at UCI.
Mm.
It's a collegiate like modern dance team exhibition. We've never danced together before, but I was on like the alumni council while you were on the team like ninth and 10th gen, right? We kind of
Mhm.
talked about this beforehand. So I followed your career. You've been like a recruiter, a talent acquisition person for a while now. Like you're currently with TikTok and you still dance a lot, it seems. And you mentioned in the forum that you are also building different YouTube channels,
Mhm.
K-pop related and tech recruiting related. Is that all
Yeah, yeah,
correct? Any
definitely, definitely.
clarifications?
Yes. I try to dance as much as I can,
Yeah, yeah.
but of course, like with all the work at TikTok and building the YouTube channels, I definitely don't have as much time as I want to have with it.
Mm.
But that's kind of just something I'm figuring out right now.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
all good. Yeah, seems like you're a busy guy, very
Yes.
ambitious.
Definitely. Definitely.
So I have a warm-up question before we get into first topic. So like you're into K-pop.
Oh yeah.
Favorite groups?
Favorite groups. Well, definitely what got me into K-pop more recently was Blackpink during
Mm.
COVID. I used to be into like EXO way back then, but I'm a girl group guy, so Blackpink, New Jeans,
Mm.
uh, Illit,
Mm.
yeah, and Twice. Like just the kind of
Yeah, yeah.
I'm kind of like the big
Yeah,
group
the
guy.
big ones, the
Yeah,
most like well-known ones.
yeah. Or an
Nice.
Ive,
Oh, yeah,
Ive,
good
yeah,
choices.
yeah.
Do you have like a alt, like a bias?
Um, Jenny from Blackpink.
Ah, good call, good call. Mine's Rose, so we're
Oh
right
yeah,
there. Yeah.
the Aussie girl.
Yeah, are you going to yeah, exactly. Are you going to their concert coming up or tour or
I
anything?
am.
Yeah.
My friends actually texted me the other
Yeah.
day and they said, "Hey, we bought you a ticket. You're gonna go." And I was like, "Okay, sweet. Like,
Nice.
I think I can go." And they're like, "But we're in New York, so you have to fly to New York." And I was like,
Is the catch. You
okay."
have to come to New York.
Yeah, and they're like, "Yeah, just let us know." And so I just bought a plane ticket to New York. So I'll be flying to New York to watch them. But I watched them like the previous years at like the Coachella
Mm,
performance, their encore. I watched them 4 times in the last tour.
yeah.
So can never get enough of
Nice.
them.
When is the New York show?
July 27th.
July
It's
27th.
gonna be pretty hot, but hopefully they bring like the same energy that they have
Mm.
in LA to New
Mm.
York. So we'll see.
Yeah. It's funny, a few months ago, my friends and I watched Jenny at Jimmy Fallon.
Ellen.
Wait, Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel? Jimmy Kimmel?
One of the
I think it's Kimmel.
Jimmys.
I think it's
Jimmy
Kimmel. I think
Neutron.
it's Kimmel. Yeah, it's the one in LA. But we
Yeah.
went and it was great. She was really good live. I saw them in concert like before COVID too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're really great. So my friends keep asking me like, "Are you going to the tour?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna be honest with you. Blackpink is great, but I'm actually a Rose fan.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm kind of waiting for that solo tour."
Yeah.
And because I want my money to go like 100%, not just like, all right, it's
Yeah.
set 25% well spent,
Yeah. Yeah.
Blackpink's cool.
Well, Jenny and Lisa are playing at Coachella this year,
Oh yeah,
so
oh that's
I'll
right.
I'll watch them. But
Yeah,
I'm sure, like with how good Rose went with her song this year, she's gonna want to go next year.
that's what
So I
I'm
think
hoping.
next
Well,
year's.
okay, Coachella, sure,
Yeah.
but like I'm really just banking on like some sort of solo tour,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
more bang for my buck. But
Yeah.
we will see. Okay,
Yeah.
enough K-pop
Okay.
nerding. Yeah, that's just our warm up.
Okay. Okay.
Cool, cool. But all right, so let's go into first topic, which is usually for my guest origin story, kind of like where you grew up and like what were the main influences that kind of connect the dot to where you are today.
Yeah. So as you can see from my name, I was born in, or maybe don't see from my name, but I was born in Sydney, Australia. Lachlan's a very Australian name. My dad is from Hong Kong, and he moved to Australia when he was 7 by boat. He was like literally a fob, escaping the communists from China. So he's like pretty much full Australian. And then my mom is from the Philippines and moved there when she was younger. So that's where they had me and my 3 other siblings. Moved to When we moved to America in 2004 when I was 7. We moved to a town called Arcadia, so Los Angeles. So that's more so where I grew up, at least for the most of my like conscious formative years.
Mm.
And then how I landed, or like kind of to bridge where I am now, I went to UC Irvine, or I transferred to UC Irvine. I went to community college for 2 years, transferred to UC Irvine. That's where I met you, and on IRMO. And throughout that time at UC Irvine, or just in college, I felt like I didn't do the best I could academically in high school. I did a lot of leadership in high school. I was like senior class president in ASB. I was speech and debate captain. I also participated in like drumline and marching band. So I was very active in like my extracurriculars. So I think that I grew up introverted, but through that exposure, through all those activities, it made me very extroverted. So going into college and wanting to really pave the way for my career, I did 3 internships. My first year internship was actually in the Philippines at Jollibee.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I was a finance intern, and basically I was stressed out because all my friends, they like went to UCLA and then also UT Austin, and they were getting investment banking internships. And they're like, Lachlan, like, what's your internship? And I'm like, guys, like, I don't know. I was telling my mom because my mom has a connection to like the head of HR for Jollibee. He's like, my son needs an internship, and she was like, okay, we could put him in a finance internship. So flew to the Philippines for my freshman year summer, lived in Manila, and while I loved the company and the people, the job was just very not human like.
Mm.
Just very staring at a computer all day. But then just not to go too much into it, but I did a law internship my next year because I figured with my speech and debate experience I could really excel in that. But again, it was something that I found would be able to make me a lot of money, but I wasn't interested in the work that they were doing. And someone who was around our age that was younger, like told me when one of the courts, they're like, don't do it. And I was like,
Mm.
okay, I won't. Like that's already my sign. So my last year internship, the final time to like really, I guess, pave my path into a full-time career was in tax accounting. My mom was just saying, like, become an accountant. She went to University of the Philippines in accounting, so she said it's the most stable way to, guess, make a paycheck, and just it's a very stable way of living. But I did not like the internship at all. I actually would just go. They'd feed us a lot, and I would go into the kind of wellness room or like the mother's room and just sleep because it just was not. It was not for me.
Oh,
And then when I graduated, I was in a crisis because I didn't like any of the internships I did. My parents were drilling me on like you just need to pick something and do something. And then I figured, well, I didn't like these internships, but I was always really excited for them. So why don't I actually become a recruiter? Because I loved interviewing and I loved talking to recruiters. So when my dad heard about this, he was like, no, you're not doing that. But I actually applied to a program where a recruiter from Robinhood, the stock trading app, was taking applications to mentor 5 students who had no recruiting experience to get into recruiting. Luckily, I got in. He mentored me, started my first job as a university recruiter at CVS Health, recruiting pharmacists. Again, I know it's a trend, but I didn't like it at all either.
yeah.
It wasn't the job that I didn't like, it was the company culture at that point. There was very low diversity, and I was always kind of spoken over. So I actually quit that. It was a contract role, quit before the contract ended, tried to start my own recruiting business. But in the meantime, TikTok was about just surpass the ban from Trump, and they needed to start getting recruiters to hire more people because the company was growing rapidly. So I was reached out to by a recruiter from TikTok. They saw my experience at CVS Health, and they were saying, "Hey, like we are growing our recruiting team. Let's hop on a call." So that's what got me into TikTok. Of course, did some interviews, and now fast forward 4 years later, I hire for Sydney, Sydney, San Jose, Seattle, and also did some hiring like for London and Dublin as well. So yeah, that's kind of like what brought me to here now.
Yeah. Wow, I love that story, and maybe people can take away what they want from that. But I guess my question for you as like a sit-in for people who might be at that stage you were at or even before then,
Mhm.
what were kind of the, I guess, mindsets or ideas that helped to get you to where you are? In the sense of it seems like you're trying to figure out what you
Mhm.
wanted to do. You tried these different internships and pivots and all this other stuff. But I guess, do you have any thoughts or advice on someone who might be going through a similar, not career crisis, but you know what I mean? Like the early stage, like you're still in college or maybe you're leaving high school and you're not really sure what you want to do, like kind of like yourself.
Yeah.
What kind of advice or thoughts would you give to that person?
No, definitely. I think when you step into college and when you start speaking to like your parents' friends or like adults, they're always going to ask you, "So what are you going to do when you graduate?" And it is a career crisis because a lot of times most college students don't have it all figured out. But from what I did, and when at the time I wasn't planning on it, but it all just worked out. Luckily, I had those internships that I did, and I really did just throw myself into things that I didn't know if I was going to be interested in it, but I wanted to get something out of it, and that is this a possible career path for myself? So I think for all those students out there, or even if you're not in college and you're still figuring things out, just do something and really analyze what you like about what you're doing and what you don't like about your doing and narrow into what you do like and see what kind of path that creates for you. Because as you saw from my path, I had no recruiting experience at all. It was everything but recruiting. But what I figured out or what I realized is that I liked that specific recruiting experience for each of the internships, which is why, okay, I'll become a recruiter because I think if I want to live both a happy life, something that I'm passionate about and I'm able to get paid for, the whole concept of like IKIGAI, which we can,
Hmm.
then it's gonna really do well for me in the long run because I don't want to trap myself in a career where you know, or you don't want to trap yourself in a career where you will regret like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have just jumped into something so quickly for the sake of it.
I
Yeah.
like that. Okay, we'll put a pin on ikigai.
Yes.
But before that, so it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, you you pinpointed a part in your experience that you enjoyed, which was that kind of recruiting process, and that's what
Mm.
kind of lit the light bulb of like, oh, maybe I should try this out. And it was really just that's how you fell into it. Like it was no one saying you should go into recruiting because you seem like a really good like that
Yeah.
sort of. Oh, I see, I see.
Exactly.
Okay, before Ikigai, what do you think like were your characteristics, and maybe you already explained this, that led you to being good at what you do and or enjoying what you do?
Yeah. So the first one, what led me to be wait, sorry, what was
Yeah, yeah, like what characteristics do you think lent you to being good at what you do now?
oh yeah. So I would consider myself an extroverted person. So I do like to talk to a lot of people. And actually growing up, I was very introverted. I was very shy. Usually like a lot of parents of my classmates would always be like, "Oh yeah, like Lachlan's really shy," whenever I'd go over to someone's house. But when I got into speech and debate during high school, that's what really broke me out of my shell because I used to do something called humorous interpretation.
Mm,
Basically, you just like get like a movie script or something, and you just like make it really funny, and like you just act really stupid, and in front of the whole audience.
yeah.
So that's what broke me out of my shell, and because like I gained the confidence to act that certain way in front of a group of people, that's how I started to become more extroverted. And now during work as a recruiter, you need to be comfortable speaking to all different types of people and kind of not worry about how you're perceived by them. But at the same time, because it is recruiting, like you are the face of the company you work for. So you still need to present yourself in a good way. But that's what helped build up my confidence.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, do you think? So, are you an extrovert now, or are you introverted and you develop those skills to be extroverted, or at least more people skills?
Yeah. I think growing up, I was introverted. Now I'm more extroverted leaning.
Mm,
But
like
I
near
would
the middle, but maybe leaning towards extroversion.
yeah, so I would say, like, for the most part, I'm ambiverted.
Okay, okay.
Mostly extroverted, but I really do enjoy my alone time and just peace at home, and there are times where, if my friends will text me like, "Hey, let's do this." I used to say yes every time, but now I'm kind of like, I just prefer to stay home,
Mm,
um, work on my projects, or spend time with my dog.
I
So,
see.
for the most part, extroverted, but I also have my introverted moments.
Okay, so like maybe you jump back and forth depending on the context.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense. I think I'm the same way too. I think I understand now that I'm probably naturally introverted, but I
Mhm.
can do well in extroverted spaces if I my perspective is that it's a developed skill set,
Mhm.
people skills, and like learning how to get energy from those spaces.
Yeah,
But I do know that I do get drained at a certain point if it's too many unfamiliar people.
exactly.
Whereas if it's like a bunch of people who are my close friends, I have energy all day.
Mhm, mhm.
So I like that. Going back to humorous interpretation, that sounds like a lot of fun. But do you have an example of what that would be like if you do have any?
Yeah, so basically, I did. okay, I'll give you some background. I did speech and debate for 2 years, and for humorous interpretation, I had a script called Walkie Talkie Bob. It was about an introverted boy who didn't know how to speak to girls, and everything just went wrong for him. So basically, you start off with like a character. It's just like a monologue, but there's multiple characters.
Mm.
So like I would start off and say like, "Hi, my name's Josh, and I'm not very good at talking to girls, especially girls." And then I'd switch into a girl and be like, huh, "What?" And then be like, "Oh, sorry, but like so that type." So it's like a one person play
Yeah.
playing multiple people,
Yeah.
like multiple personalities.
That sounds like so much fun.
Yeah, it's
Man.
really fun. It's really
Okay.
fun.
Oh, man, I gotta look into this more.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Going back to Ikigai now. So what is Ikigai? And like could you explain like your thoughts on how that's relevant?
Yes. So Ikigai is a Japanese concept where you tie in, I think it's 3 or 4 things, but I know the 3 things for sure. You tie in 3 things, and if you think of a Venn diagram, what's in the middle of tying in those 3 things is what leads you to living, quote unquote, a happy, purposeful life. So Ikigai is the concept of tying in number one, what is your passion? Number two, what the world needs. And number three, what you can be paid for. So when you tie all these things together, that is your Ikigai. And the reason why I mentioned that before, especially, is because when I first started at the job I work at right now, I was probably the happiest I've ever been because I was achieving that. Fast forward to now, it's a little bit different just because the culture of things have changed, but that's essentially what Ikigai is.
I love it. And so there's a book on that and there's articles and stuff like that.
Exactly.
I'll link to it because I did a book summary on Ikigai or one of them.
Mhm.
Um, I think the book is hit or miss, but the concept is great.
Yeah,
I don't have you read that book?
I did. I did.
By I forgot the
Who was
author.
that? Like Hector Garcia.
Yeah, Hector Garcia. Yeah, no. So I think the concept is amazing,
Yeah.
and I think the fourth one is like
Yeah.
what you are good at. So it's
Yes.
what you enjoy, what you're good at,
What
what
your-
the market will pay you for, and what the
the
world
world
needs.
needs. Yes,
Yeah,
there are 4 of them. There we go. I knew there
exactly.
was
So
4.
yeah, and so I like that concept. But what I was kind of disappointed about the book was like it kept talking about like blue zones and like not really ikigai related stuff. So I guess my own critique is I kind of went off topic of what
Yeah.
I thought it was going to talk about, but it's still a solid book. Recommend it. Go check it out. Okay, cool. So I think that's it. We can move on to now tech recruiting. I guess it's a good segue.
Yeah.
So I guess yeah. So as a tech recruiter, this might be interesting to other people who don't know how the field works or how the job works. But what is like your day to day as a tech recruiter?
Yes. So every day is different for me. But if I were to kind of average it out and put it into day to day, I, you know, am the face of the company when it comes to me reaching out to a candidate. Specifically, I hire software engineers, so I'll reach out to software engineers from other big tech companies, say, "Hey, I'm from TikTok." Wait, did I mention I'm from TikTok?
Yeah, they'll have known by now.
Oh, okay. Hey, I.
Your bio plus also the
Okay,
the
I wasn't
clickbait title of this will probably say TikTok.
Okay. I wasn't sure if I should mention it yet.
All good.
Okay, but basically, I reach out to software engineers from other tech company and say, "Hey, I'm from TikTok." Send them a LinkedIn message and say, "We're growing fast. We have over 1.6 billion global active users. Come join us." So I'll have a group of candidates coming in every day. I do phone calls with them, and then I'll pitch each one to the hiring manager based on what the role requires. It also requires, of course, a lot of meetings with my stakeholders or clients, and my clients are the engineering managers of the company. So I have to work with each of them to understand what they're doing, what their hiring needs are, and of course, how I can fulfill those hiring needs. So it's a lot of meetings with hiring managers, candidate calls, a lot of messaging or consulting with cross-functional partners. So like even legal, immigration, and I also have another kind of group of people in my recruiting team, like recruiting coordinators and sourcers who help me out as well. So it is a lot of actually messaging within the company and externally as well. It's very internal, external.
So it's like the nexus of a lot of different points.
Exactly.
What do you think are some good characteristics for a good recruiter?
Yes. I think definitely the number one characteristic actually is someone who is willing to face rejection. As recruiters, especially in this market, rejection is a big part of your job because you'll reach out to candidates and they'll all react in different ways. I've had candidates, of course, for the most part, they are excited and they are respectful. But I've had candidates who are like, "Yeah, I don't want to work for your company." Like, love political stuff.
Oh, I see.
I
Yeah.
love political stuff, and but also sometimes people are just really mean, and I'm just like,
Mm.
I'm just trying to give you an opportunity. This
Right.
is my job.
Yeah.
But I one time had a guy come in who said, "Yeah, like I'm not willing to move to your company unless you give me at least $1 million in total compensation." I'm like,
Yeah.
that is just like coming in like that. It's like,
Right.
how do you think you're gonna get a job like that?
Right.
But so it's just number one thing is of course willing to face rejection and face these scenarios. Number two, I think it is again like as I said, like people skills and being able to be a generalist and flow with different situations because you will be talking to different people that have different work styles, and because TikTok is a very global company, you will collaborate with different countries that have different work cultures as well. So it's really interesting because we have our own work culture in America, but the way someone else might communicate with you online is going to be completely different. It may seem like mean, but it's like it's actually their culture. So kind of just being able to work with people globally and adjust to that. Number three is just time management and organization because it is such large scale recruiting and for a company that's building something great at a global level. Like as I said, we have over 1.6 billion global active users, so you can imagine the amount of energy and effort that goes into building the teams that build that. It's just yeah, you need to have time management and organization. So, and on top of that, it's just also the entrepreneurial mindset. Yeah. So those are the three
Nice.
things.
Yeah. I think it's crazy because it seems like it's the point where you have to have the, like you said, generalist of the technical knowledge, but also the people skills, the
Hmm.
organizational skills, and then
Hmm.
dealing cross culturally on such a like a global platform and communicating with different people. So I think
Hmm.
that's definitely a tough job, but I can see why it can be like so active and busy. And like you said, your day to day is not the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Aside from what you already mentioned, what are some of the biggest challenges I guess you face, or maybe a tech recruiter faces in general, aside from like the rejection and obviously all those complications?
Yeah. So regardless of whether it's at TikTok or other big companies, your employer branding is something that's very important for a candidate or someone to consider you. It's just like when you are considering pairs of shoes. Like, let's say two pairs of shoes are in front of you and they're the exact same, but you ask someone to pick one shoe to wear, but they're the exact same except one of them has a Nike logo on it.
Mm.
People, because Nike, unless they have something bad, but for the most part, I think they have good branding.
Right, right, right.
People are going to gravitate towards Nike, picking the Nike shoe. So in the same way, it's like a company. Um, when it comes to like TikTok, the branding is everything, and there, it's not just TikTok. All companies, somewhat go through times of good branding and bad branding, depending on what the media reports of the company. So it's those market shifts that do make it challenging for recruiters when it is in that low period to be able to convince a candidate to join the company when they're literally searching up the company and all that comes up in the news is
Mm.
like this is what the work culture is like, or like these are things that just happened that a lot of people are against that the company just did, so it's those market shifts
Mm.
are very challenging for recruiters.
Right.
Yeah.
And I imagine like the larger your company is, the more, I guess, the more scale that it is, but the more likely that there will be something that someone will hear about.
Hmm.
That it's like you can't. It's not like you can control a 1 point something billion active members platform and be like, okay, this is our cohesive brand, or like everyone is on point. Whereas there could
Hmm.
be something here or there that's like, well,
Exactly.
can't
Like
control that.
you think about if you also relate it to like celebrities, like people do bad things, and like let's bring the example like hypothetical, like someone cheats on their partner, and it's just like someone that doesn't have a large following, but when a celebrity cheats
Mm.
on their partner, like it's all over the news,
Mm.
so in the same way, like when bigger companies do something, it's blown up at a larger scale and reported wide.
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense. Quick tangent. Do you speak any other languages?
um I Well, I speak English, of course.
Really?
In case you guys didn't know.
He's just translator this whole time.
I know. So, but I understand Tagalog and I speak very elementary proficiency Mandarin.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, because my mom's Filipino and speaks to me like Tagalog phrases that I'll know. But my dad like made me learn like Mandarin when starting middle school, but
Okay.
I didn't have too much exposure to it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I was just curious if that like plays a part in what you do since you're very global in what you do. I was just wondering if like that.
Oh, it actually does
plays.
because at TikTok it's owned by the parent company ByteDance that comes from China.
Mhm.
And while I don't do business in Chinese, like a lot of our company communications and our messages and our meetings are in Chinese. But for our internally developed communication suite, they have a live translation. So even if you go in a meeting that's completely in Chinese or another language, there'll be subtitles on the bottom and it will translate it into English in real time. So that's how.
Technology, man.
Yeah, exactly, right?
That's crazy.
But sometimes like the translations are off. So I'll be in meetings and like it's a really important meeting and they're telling me something and I'm trying to like read
You're
the
like reading, you're like, what
subtitles
is this?
and I'm like, wait, can you say that again but differently?
One more time, please.
One more time, please. Yeah. I don't think my coworker understood it correctly. I understood it, but
Yeah, oh, it's for them. It's for them.
It's for them.
Making sure everyone's on the same
Yeah,
page.
yeah. I'm just looking out for you guys.
So kind.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, I want to go into. You mentioned some of the achievements that you have were um building TikTok shop
Yes.
team, and then also Australia's first engineering team.
Yes.
I guess either what was that like, and or like, do you have any stories about like that process that might be interesting of like doing those things?
Yeah. It was amazing. Again, that's why, or I mentioned kind of earlier, like you have to be entrepreneurial for this role, especially coming into TikTok, because it's all about building as opposed to just maintaining or filling in backfill positions for people that leave. We're like really just building new teams and building something greater. So going to that first experience with TikTok Shop, at the time I was what's called a technical. I was still a recruiter, but it's called a technical sourcer. So they're really the salespeople of recruiting, where they're in charge only of reaching out to candidates that are qualified for the role, bringing them in, and then throwing them into the interview process. So that's how we build and keep a consistent pipeline of candidates. So back in 2021, when I was doing sourcing, TikTok Shop at the time was a confidential project called Project Magellan.
Mm.
And I don't know why it was called that, but the company was like, hey, like we're gonna have you work on Project Magellan. It's our e-commerce project. And I was like, okay, cool. And I basically just reached out to candidates from Amazon, eBay, Etsy, like Lyft and Uber as well. So things that have like e-commerce or payments or some sort of like product to a consumer.
Is this kind of like a cold reaching out sort of thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all cold reach outs, but for the most part, the talent pool was like untouched by all of our recruiters compared to now. Like I feel like we've reached out to everyone. So it was really nice to see a lot of other candidates from like Google and Facebook like be passionate and be excited to join us. So that's just built out the e-commerce teams for that, and now it's TikTok Shop. And if you guys haven't used it, it's really it's actually pretty good now. A lot of businesses and small businesses promote their products and sell on TikTok Shop, so it's created a lot of opportunity and even revenue for the U.S. And fast forward into last year, as I mentioned, I was born in Sydney, Australia, so I still hold my Aussie passport. And the company had some of the teammates working on Australia, and they were doing like late night meetings because they had to adjust for the time zone. And then I was having lunch with my boss one time, and she was out. She was asking me how I was, and I was like, "Yeah, it's all right. Like it's just getting really busy, but I'm hanging in there." She's like, "You should see the Australia team because they're staying up late." And I was like, "Oh, that's funny. Like I'm literally from Australia." And she's like, "Oh, like you have your passport still?" And I'm like, "Yeah. Like why wouldn't I?" And she's like, "Oh, cool." And then the next week, HR reached out to me, and they're basically like, "Can you move to Australia for like a year or two?" And
God.
I actually said no at first. because I have a dog. I also own 2 properties here that I take care of. So just a lot of my assets and just my personal life is here in SoCal. But we reached a deal where every 3 months I can come back for a month.
Mm.
So that helped out. So last year, 2024, went to Sydney, Australia. They didn't have any engineering teams. All the office was filled with like more global business solutions, marketing folks. It was a business office. But because ideally you want to house all the data in the region that the users are in for the sake of like user data security,
Mhm.
I was built out the site reliability engineering team. So they were building out the data centers, the local data centers, and maintaining that. I hired over 30 engineers there. And it was really nice because I was able to connect back to where I
Mm.
was born and where I'm from, and actually all my family's there.
Oh, nice.
But at the same time, like it's a full circle because I don't really go back, and I go back now and I'm like a full adult and I'm working. I brought my mom over for a month. Um, Luckily, like TikTok put me in a luxury apartment that was it's called the Opera Residences. It's the residences of the Sydney Opera House. So
Wow,
it was really
that's
nice.
crazy.
So my mom was it was just really nice because my mom was just in awe and like she was so proud of me. And she actually always like for when she was in the Philippines and she moved to Australia and saw that apartment, she always wanted to live in that apartment. So it was really full circle more for her as well. But basically, sorry, going back to TikTok, it was it was nice because again, like I mentioned for TikTok Shop, and back in 2021, the talent pool was untouched, and we didn't reach out to all the candidates the previous year, so we still had a lot of a fresh talent pool to reach out to. Just to give you some context about how difficult it was to hire there, though, we typically hire from like other tech companies, and in America, there's a big tech presence. However, to give you a comparison, Australia as a country is, or their population is smaller than California as a state.
Wow.
So when you think about Australia's tech population, it's like even smaller. So within like a week or two, like I actually reached out to all of the engineers from tech companies,
Yeah.
and there wasn't that much responses.
Mm.
I don't think we actually hired really any, or if any, like that many from other tech companies. So I was able to use that data to convince the hiring manager to start considering people from non-tech companies. That's how I was able to reach my goal. And then we also hired from India as well.
Mm.
So yeah, and fast forward to now, I'm now recruiting in the US. I potentially have another chance to hire again for Australia and Europe. But right now, like a lot of my clients and stakeholders are in China, Sydney, in the US, and then the East Coast. So again, still very global.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Dang, wow, that must have been like a really crazy experience, and it seems like a lot of hard work goes into that as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice. It's funny because it's like, yeah, we reached out to all the people there. It's like, so who did you reach out? Who did you reach out to? And you're like, yes,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
all of them,
yes, they did. Yes.
everyone.
Next question.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Dang, that's cool, man. Last thing on this topic I wanted to
Mhm.
ask is, I guess this is maybe on both sides, but do you have any advice or lessons learned as a tech recruiter? Like if someone wants to go into the role that you do, and or someone on the other side who is being hired or wants to like
Mhm.
get hired, do you have any tips on that? Both ends.
Yes. So if someone wants to go into recruiting right now, I would recommend
Caveat right now.
right now, I would recommend them not to right now. And that's purely because of how the market is, especially in tech. It's very volatile, lots of layoffs and hiring freezes. Um, and usually when there are hiring freezes, especially back in 2021 or 2022, when I think Robinhood had their first layoffs and hiring freezes, and that kind of kickstarted the mass wave of that. The recruiters were always the first to go because if there's a hiring freeze and there's no need to hire, then there's no need for recruiters.
Mm.
So that's just something to understand, and it's gone better now, but at the same time, it is with the race for AI with a lot of tech companies. Um, Companies are cutting out their, I guess, least non-revenue generating businesses or organizations. Luckily, of course, recruiters are still needed for like any new teams or any backfill that's created from like people maybe leaving due to performance. But it is I have spoke to like a lot of my recruiter colleagues, and kind of at this point, we're trying to just hold on to our jobs, and
Mm.
we don't know when we'll receive a message of like it'll be a last day. So if anyone is trying to get into tech recruiting now, definitely know that it is going to be hard. It's still possible, of course, but it is something that if you want stability, it might not be the best option for you right now. But maybe it will change in the future because again, it is very market dependent. And for someone who is a candidate, trying to get hired regardless of whether it's recruiting, engineering, marketing, advice that I have for them is honestly, at this point in time, it is the age of tech and online presence, online branding is very important. I'll be honest, as a recruiter, when I do see my candidates, everyone's linking their LinkedIn's nowadays. It's a very normal practice, and I will actually go on their LinkedIn's, see how they present themselves on LinkedIn's. Of course, aside from their actual experience, and see what they're even posting. Like, what type of language do they have? What discussions and insights do they bring? So, if you are a candidate, just make sure that your online presence and your branding is also just very well established because, like, gone are the days where we are actually showing up in person to interview and making that impression solely there. Like, you can Google a name online now and see so many links of where their presence is at. So, just really make sure you have a strong online presence and brand.
Mm,
Yeah.
I like it. All right, thanks for that. Let's pivot. There's so much in this next topic. It's very chunky, but
Okay.
it is balancing work and play,
Hmm.
being obsessed with building gratitude, losing and gaining passions and healthy habits. I don't
Uh-huh.
know if we'll touch all of that stuff, but
Okay.
do you have any thoughts on how one can best achieve this whole balance with work and play? Any examples?
Yeah. So, balancing work and play is all dependent on your habits and how you approach your life and what you prioritize. So for me, I was able to. It's been a challenge for me because back then, when I had more work life balance, I was able to clock off at 5 and do whatever I need to do that day, whether it's my passions of like bouldering, dancing, taking my dog to the park, hanging out with friends or my family. But of course, now that things have changed and it seems like everything is so fast and demanding, I have less work life balance. So I've been able to really kind of zero in on improving, balancing work and play. Uh, Realistically, I don't have that much time in the day anymore to play. It's just more work, but because I do have like my things that are non-negotiables, like my like working out, spending time with my friends, just to keep me sane. Like it all comes to prioritization, and prioritization also then comes, as I said, with your habits and kind of breaking it down into each micro step, um, and then kind of organizing it. So I have a professional mental health coach that helps keep me accountable with that. Like the three things that I've been needing more of is like sleep, and as well as I'm building like a YouTube channel. So with my current heavy corporate life workload and also building something on the side, like I don't have much flexibility to be socializing with my friends or pursuing a lot of my passions. But if I do still want to throw that in, that means like heavy prioritization skills and goal setting. So right now, like with my coach, like I set a goal to sleep before 12 3 times a week. And then on those days I sleep before 12, wake up by 8 a.m., start my first day of like working on my YouTube channel. And then by 9:30 or 10 a.m., I'm working for a corporate job, which is TikTok. Um, but in terms of like, yeah, balancing, it's all just about analyzing the current system that you have in order to work towards the goals that you want to achieve. Because I actually listened to this podcast called The Mindset Mentor, and you can set all the goals you want. It is a good direction to go to, but what's the most important part is the systems that you implement to work towards that. And So going back into balancing work and play, it's just making sure you have a system that contributes towards achieving those goals. And one more thing I want to go over in this subject is um, his name's Rob. I forgot his last name for the from the Mindset Mentor. With the law of attraction, I feel like I have a lot of goals and I try to attract it and I visualize it, but visualizing it is just not enough because in the word attraction is the word action.
Mm.
So it's all just about making sure, again, with the systems that you implement, that you take action on those and to be able to, balance your work and then have downtime to play, whether that's exercising, talking to friends, whatever you enjoy. Yeah.
Okay. Rob
Rob
Dial.
Dial.
Nice.
Rob Dial, that's his name.
Cool.
Exactly.
Nice. We'll
Yeah.
link that in the show notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. So now on your YouTube channel or channels, so you mentioned before, you're building this K-pop news channel, and now you're doing this sort of tech recruiting channel, or you're building it out. Could you walk us through? There's so many ways we can go with this, and we're kind of short on time, but
Go, go.
yeah, how what is that process like, or what is the process of building out a YouTube channel? I guess we can start with that.
Yeah, I actually got a coach for it.
Oh, cool, nice.
Yeah, so when I was in Australia, I was like deep into the computer at work, and I was like, oh, I need something like more creative because I'm at TikTok.
Yeah.
I see creators come in the office, but
I was about to ask why, but you felt like you needed to create something.
yes,
Okay,
I felt like I need to create something, and I just felt inspired by seeing all these creators and the content they create. But of course at TikTok, I'm the one that's behind the desk. So I got a coach. It was for like a faceless YouTube channel program, how to create a YouTube channel without actually showing your face.
Mhm.
It involves, of course, like hiring freelancers from like the Philippines, Indonesia, Brazil. So that's how I started off being able to balance working at TikTok and also building a YouTube channel in K-pop. It was K-pop. The K-pop YouTube channel was always my training wheels channel because it does have a large audience, so there's more potential for like larger viewership and then comments, and that's my feedback. I was able to monetize that in like a month and a half, which was faster than I expected, but
Nice.
it didn't. The entertainment niche on YouTube didn't make me as much money as I was putting into it.
Mm.
But my ultimate goal was to educate people who are finding jobs on how to find jobs, given my insight as a tech recruiter. So that's why I'm now building my tech recruiting channel that's set to release at the end of the month. Just kind of those videos about integrating modern day hiring practices, like 10 things recruiters won't tell you about the recruiting process, or how to write a resume with ChatGPT in like 8 seconds. So those types of videos.
Mm.
Um, but the process of building it is just also, I don't think I could do it all by myself. It really takes a team to do it. Um, but it's luckily with like the skills I learned from TikTok and entrepreneurship, that's how I was able to navigate it.
Nice. I like it. Maybe for part two, if it's in the cards, we can talk about that because I'm so curious about like building channels and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So moving on from that, you mentioned gaining passions and losing passions, and then the last thing is healthy habits. Which one do you want to touch on?
Um, Probably gaining and losing passion since we're on that wave right now,
Hmm.
and then healthy habits.
Yeah.
Or yeah,
Yeah. So like, what are your thoughts on gaining and losing passions? I get the idea of okay, I'm going through life trying new things. Oh, I found a passion of mine, but I guess the flip side of that, like, what do you mean by losing passions?
yeah.
How does that apply to the audience?
So it's more so not losing passions by choice, but losing it because of the
The
circumstances that you're
circumstance.
in. Again, like my work is just very demanding now, and I've promoted twice, but with every promotion, like I have to promote or devote more time to my role. So in a sense, like I am very passionate about bouldering, about dancing, uh, about hanging out with my friends, but because of now the time constraints I have, like I've had to sacrifice a lot of the time to these passions. So that's kind of like what I define as my midlife crisis.
Mm.
Because like I still at heart am like want to pursue what I feel just makes me happy. But with the system of working in a corporate job, trying to climb the ladder, or not even trying to, but like doing it for the sake of staying in the company or making a paycheck and paying all the bills. Like it comes with the sacrifice of having to lose that passion. Again, not by choice, but by
Mm.
force. So that's just something that's like kind of sad.
Yeah, yeah, I feel it. So it's just
Yeah.
something that it's been on your mind. It's like as you prioritize and have to carve out more time for these things just fall off just by circumstance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you watched Vibe, but there was a set by GRV and
Hmm.
they literally just did
Did they place?
they got first.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. They did a set on basically the premise was there was a worker and he was like forced in his corporate job. Of course, not it wasn't his passion very evidently, and they're like kind of dancing through the whole journey. So they used props like, and it
Mm.
was really cool. But basically at the end, like he puts in his 2 week notice. The set's called 2 week notice,
Mm.
and then they like just do like a dance break at the end. Everyone's like, yeah,
Mm.
and then so what's really cool about that what I heard from my friend is that the person who was the main character actually put in his 2 week notice and is now pursuing like dance full time.
Oh,
So
nice.
it's really cool how that tied into like real life. But
Yeah.
after watching that set, it did make me realize or like really reflect on like my job and like kind of the sacrifices I had to make on that for my passions, not only just in like dance, but like bouldering and kind of my mindset with how I view things now. So I think I don't want to succumb to that mindset of kind of what the system perpetuates on us. And that's why I do want to keep building things like a YouTube channel. Like I invest in real estate to be able to buy me that freedom of time in the future to then get back to those passions. So it is like kind of that thing right now of things are going to get worse before they get better.
I like
Yeah.
it. I'll link to that video as well. I have not watched it, but I've heard good things and people are posting
Yeah.
stories, so I'll check that out.
Rewatching it every day.
Yeah,
It's so cool.
nice.
Yeah.
I was like, I thought you were gonna say, yeah, he put in his 2 week notice on stage. Like,
Yeah, you imagine.
sent the email
Yeah.
on stage, first place, and he's like, oh, sorry, you guys didn't place. Oh,
Manager's in the
crap.
crowd like,
He's like, wait, I take that back. I take that back,
Okay,
guys.
I take that back, I
I
take
didn't. Yeah, we didn't get first. Can I have my job back?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay, cool. Thanks for that. That
Mhm.
was great. You ready for rapid fire questions?
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Nice. Okay, this is the fun part. Billboard question. So, if you could put up a sign for millions of people to see, what would it say?
If I could put up a sign for millions of people to see, it would say, hmm, uh, it'd probably say like, uh, next exit 4, and then insert something like really random and funny.
Nice. I like it.
I feel like it just needs some lighthearted comedy
Yeah.
in the world now.
Yeah.
But
In a girl voice. What do you mean?
but I want it to be like yeah, exactly. I want it to be like something that's like actually like not existing, but it's like exit here for, and then everyone's like exiting, but like it's not there.
It's not there. I like it.
Yeah.
Self-inflicted wounds. So, oh, sorry. Hardest challenges. What is one of the hardest challenges you faced in your life, and what did you learn from it?
Yes. Hardest challenge I faced. TLDR. During my sophomore year of high school, my dad was flying back and forth between America and Hong Kong. He's also like a global businessman, and he gave me and my family the opportunity to move to Hong Kong, and like our life would like really exponentially increase there. Like it was things would just work out really well. I was gonna go to international school. So me and my mom said yes, and all my siblings were going to college at the time, so it didn't really affect them. Me and my mom said yes, and then eventually, like accepted that job offer in Hong Kong, and then me and my mom like kind of turned back and said, like, "Never mind." And it just affected a lot of things in our family because now he's like in Hong Kong, my family's here in the U.S., and I think what that taught me though is to really make decisions rationally based or rather than making emotional based decisions because at the time I went to Hong Kong once and I had the time of my life on vacation and that's why at the first I was really willing to just move there but then I didn't realize of course like what I'd be sacrificing here and the opportunities I'd be sacrificing here. I'm really thankful for my dad and I think I've landed in a very good place by staying here but when it comes to making big decisions or any decision like just approaching it rationally rather than emotionally. Yeah.
So this self-inflicted wound. Do you have a story about something that's gone wrong in your life that was your fault and you can't blame anyone because you did it to yourself?
um, I'm not gonna lie. I can't think of anything right now. I think for the most part, I don't know if it's my mindset,
Yeah.
but things do tend to go my way.
Nice. Sound
Not
all. I love that for you.
yeah. I
It's
of
all good.
course like maybe like growing up in school, like I always got sent to the principal's office or like sent to other teachers' classrooms because I couldn't sit still. But then later on in life, I got diagnosed with ADHD.
You're like, well, I
And I'm
don't
like,
know.
why do you guys treat me like that?
Yeah, yeah.
But for the most part, like I don't have any because I guess I can't think of any right now.
Yeah, no, it's
Sorry.
all good. Yeah, no, I think part of that is like mindset, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the next two might be hard for you then. What is the first one is if you could redo one thing, what would you do differently? And then the second one is if you could give your younger self advice, what would it be now? Those are kind of different, but
Okay. If I could redo one thing, it would be to wear my retainers after I got my braces off.
uh
I know that's completely like random and off like our or subjects that we've been talking about, but basically, after I got my braces off, I was wearing my retainers for a while. I went to vacation in the Philippines, and then I think like one of the helpers took it, and I just didn't. I was like, oh, whatever.
yeah.
My teeth are straight anyways. But now like my teeth have misaligned,
Uh,
and like I have to get braces again.
mm.
So that's one thing I would
You're
like.
like, okay, that was the one.
That was the one. And if I were to redo something,
Younger self advice. So if you give your younger self advice, any age, any time period, what would that advice be?
oh, to my younger self, I was a really picky eater when I was younger, and there was points where it's like if I was really hungry and I didn't like what was in front of me, I would just choose to not eat. But I was like, yeah, maybe for my development, that wasn't the best. And like, so I would just tell my younger self, like, yo, like, just eat it, or like, learn to eat it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I guess the whole, but if you were to relate that to kind of like life lessons, it's like sometimes there are opportunities that present itself that may not be in your best interest, but you have to do it for the sake of a long term outcome.
I like that.
Yeah,
I guess it's hard because how do you convince a little kid to
exactly,
think long term? But I
exactly.
feel it.
Yeah.
Um, what new belief, behavior, or habit has improved your life in the last few years?
New belief, behavior,
Or habit.
or habit. Okay. One behavior and mindset that has been carrying me, and honestly was probably what was like the turning point that made me go up in life, is the mindset of you might as well do it. And that that means like when you're just doing everyday life and you have a list of things that stack up. Oftentimes, a lot of people will say, "Oh, your mind's on that," and you're just like, just gonna do that later. But now you have to actually take that mental energy to go back and think about that and think about exactly what you have to do. When in that moment, you're already thinking about what
Mhm,
to do and how to do it.
mhm.
So it doesn't have to necessarily be a big thing. But for example, like sometimes I'll have like clothes on the floor that I'm like, okay, I want to throw in my basket. But I'm like, okay, it's kind of far from me, but so maybe I'll just do it later. But like with that, might as well. Like, okay, it's right there. I'm thinking about it. Might as well just get that over with. So with that kind of behavior and mindset, I've been able to just get a lot of things done. And in the long run, like I'm able to achieve a lot of my goals that way. Doesn't necessarily have to be like physically doing something every day in life, but even at work, like if I have something that I know won't take much mental energy and I could just do that right now and I'm thinking about it, I might as well just do it.
Yeah,
And so it's that might as well do it mindset.
I love that. It
Yeah.
reminds me of this book, The 5 Second Rule by Mel Robbins, where it's
Mm-hmm.
just like, if it takes 5 seconds, just do it.
Just do it, yeah.
Right. Or like count to five, just do it. Because
Mhm.
sometimes the overthinking just is not worth it.
Exactly, exactly.
All right. Next question. Who would you call successful and how do you define success?
Who would I call successful and how would I define success? Okay. I have two answers for this actually. I have two friends. One of them is named Kenneth Espiritu.
Mm.
They're actually both dancers. Well, both of my examples are going to be dancers. Kenneth Espiritu, he's one of my close friends. He has a dance team called Espiritu. And like last year, they were on. America's Got Talent. He has his own TikTok, and then he posts like the team's dance videos, and like it reaches millions of views. And he also does his own concept videos. And my other friend, Mark Tullen, he we're actually kind of like in a similar place in life, but he does it even greater. He's an engineer at Amazon, but he also runs his own dance team, and he's on GRV. Both of them are on GRV actually. I'm a little GRV fanboy over here.
Nice.
But Mark also like is very passionate about dance. Seeks opportunities for himself and his own dance team. Does like a lot of backup dancing as well. And the reason why I think like they're one of the most successful people in my life, and what I define as success is because they have an idea of what their passions are, and they really just go for it, because instead of listening to kind of what people expect out of them like growing up, they really just honed in on what they're good at, what they enjoy, and honestly what the world does need. Again, that whole concept of ikigai. So I think success, to put it in a broader scope, is defined as being able to know what you want to do, and if you're passionate, know what you're passionate about, and being able to achieve that. So it doesn't have to be like, oh yeah, this guy made the most money in the world. We often hear like the whole example that like just because you're rich doesn't mean you're the happiest. And of course, like it's always vice versa. But yeah, that they're kind of like the two most successful people that I view right now, and I want to be like them. Yeah.
Nice. I like it. Next one's kind of like a two-sided thing as well. If you knew you couldn't fail, what would you be trying? And the opposite side of that, if you knew you would fail, what would you do anyway?
If I knew what I couldn't fail, what would I be trying? And if I knew I could fail,
If
what would I?
if you knew you would for sure fail, what would you do anyway?
Okay.
Yeah.
If I knew I couldn't fail, sorry, if I knew I couldn't fail, what would I try? If I knew I couldn't fail, what would I try? I'd want to fly up to space.
Mm,
And that's because that's like something that's so literally out of this world.
yeah.
There's like a space mission that's going to be done by I think Blue Origin, like Amazon space sector, and Katy Perry's going on that. But there's been like a lot of space incidents in the past,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh god, that's so risky. But also like, if that works out, like that's so cool. So it's like
Yeah.
high risk, high reward, right?
Right.
So I'd want to go to space.
Yeah.
And if I knew I would fail, but I'd want to do it anyways, is oh, that's such a hard question. Like,
This is a new one.
because it's like, what? Why would you want to do? Why would you want to do something when it sets you up for, or you know you're gonna fail? Uh, do you have an example?
Oh well, I know I would be doing this podcast. Yeah, because
Oh,
in my the I think the way I interpret this question is like, what do you just love doing that you don't care about the result, that
oh,
you
okay,
do
okay,
it
okay.
anyways? Because
Yes.
people, because the opposite is people are scared of failure or success, whatever. But it's just like, what do you know you would just do regardless?
Oh, okay. I guess honestly, it is what I'm doing right now as well. Like I'm creating that YouTube channel to for tech recruiting, to give those opportunities to people that don't have access to mentorship or never heard of any really good quality career advice. So regardless of like whether I make it big in that YouTube channel or like whether I monetize or not, like I just still want to do that anyways.
Mm,
And yeah.
I like it. All right, we're gonna rush through these last few ones,
All
but
right.
do you have a favorite hot take or something you feel like most people won't agree with?
Hot take. I think nowadays, like I of course I want to tread lightly on this, but with my generation, I think it's good that we are very outspoken, and we are very passionate about making changes in the world and creating those disruptions. But there is that extreme where I think there's sometimes where you have to take a step back and just approach things differently. And it's not necessarily what you say, but how you deliver it. And if you want to make change in this world, sometimes it is, or most of the time, it is going to be about how you send that message as opposed to what the message is. Because you can have a good message, but if you're going to deliver it in a poor way, then it's not going to be received well by other people, and people won't act on what you're trying to tell them.
It's good advice. All right. What is one of the most what is one of the best or most worthwhile investments you've ever made in either time, money, energy, etc.?
Worthwhile investments I made. It's a literal investment, but buying properties. Um, I was fortunate enough during COVID, like when I started working, I lived with my parents. So I'm very privileged in that sense to be able to save money, which put me in a position to put a down payment on a condo. I lived in that condo by myself for a few years, and the value of that has grown. So when I do sell it, I will be able to, pocket that money and then invest in other stuff. And then I now co-invested in the property I live in now with my parents. And I have some roommates in there. I manage that property as well, and the equity has gone up a lot. So real estate's a really good investment early on, especially because sometimes like I'll be honest, like I am very cash poor.
Yeah, yeah.
Like in that sense, I am still living paycheck to paycheck. But when it comes to like my portfolio and knowing how much I have in in my portfolio, it's still growing. Yeah.
Nice. I like that. And respect. I think like that's where I want to get to too is like properties and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
and you're thinking long term, obviously. So
Yeah.
I think that's a good takeaway.
Well, my mom's a real estate agent, so I'll
There
help
you
you.
go.
I'll set you up.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Cool. All right. Let's wrap it up. So now, there's last few questions, but it's okay. They don't need to hear that.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, thank you for being here. We'll do any questions. So gratitude. This shout out to my mom, that's where I learned it from. So Lachlan, what are you grateful for?
Yes. Shout out to all my family, my mom and my dad, my siblings, just rooting for me throughout life. Funny story. I'm actually the only non-doctor out of my siblings,
Oh,
or I'm the only one that's not a doctor.
wow, what a disappointment!
I know what disappointment.
What a disappointment!
But they still are very proud and happy of me despite what like other people would think. And my dog, I know she won't understand or hear this, but she's been through my side for the past 11 years. And even though she doesn't say anything like English wise,
Yeah,
like she's helped me become who I am. And I just love her so much.
love it.
Yeah.
All right, so any final ask from the audience or any final takeaways you'd like them to have from this conversation?
Yes. Takeaways, mindset's everything. Whether or not you have a lot of things or you don't have a lot in your life, just acknowledge what you do have and be appreciative for it. I think that mindset's going to carry you to just be happy because happiness, depending on how you define it, is always just going to be depending on what your mindset is. And keep an eye out for my YouTube channel that's going to be released at the end of the month. It's
Nice.
called, I haven't actually told anyone the name yet, but not that I'm like a celebrity or anything, but it's called Level Up with Lachlan.
like it.
I'm going to be giving really insight on getting a job as a recruiter, but also giving more tips on how to find success in your life, whether it's through healthy habits, being productive, and just share my life story with you guys. So yeah,
Nice, like it. Is it like the channel up? It's just not like posted, or what is the? Because I
it's
can link to it and everything.
it's going to be posted by March 30. How many days in this month? March 31st.
Something like that.
It's gonna
Yeah,
be
okay.
posted by the end of this month. I have all the videos, but
Mm.
I haven't even made the actual YouTube channel yet.
Okay,
So
okay,
I still need
gotcha.
to, but all the videos are
Cool.
made. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, this episode will probably up like the 14th of April.
Oh,
So
sweet.
yours will be live by before this
Okay.
episode.
Sweet,
So
sweet.
I'll link to it. Cool. Well, on that note, where can we find you if people want to check out what you're up to or reach out or anything like that? Where can they find you?
Yes. If you want to find me on Instagram, my Instagram username is lachlan.ma. That's kind of just like my lifestyle updates all there. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I actually have my name is Lachlan Cameron. That's Cameron's my middle name. And I live in Orange County. So if you ever just want to connect, get to know each other, I'm always open to new friends and learning about new experiences. So just hit me up on one of those two platforms if you want to meet up.
Nice, dope. Cool. Lachlan, thank you so much for everything. This was a great conversation.
Yeah.
I learned a lot and hopefully you had fun.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Looking
learned
forward
a
to it.
lot through doing this as well too. So
Yes, great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to your channel and everything. So we'll stay tuned for that.
sweet. Thank
Cool.
you, JR.
All right. So my final sign off. Thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate it. Friendly reminder to always be kind to others, especially yourself.
Mhm.
And also, you can learn something from someone if you just take the time to listen. So thanks for
Yes.
being here.
Exactly. Thank you.